Hey, what's up? Hello everyone, welcome to Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
And my name is Dyl. And guess what time it is? Everyone's favorite time of the day, Fantasy Filmball, draft time. And my streak of L's continue because I lost in our favorite Oscar wins from the 2023 awards by a pretty tight margin. It was 53 to 47%. However, I'm sad that I don't get to have the first overall pick, but it's very fitting that you do because of the draft that we're having.
If you don't know, our channel is not just named Fantasy Filmball because we are just calling it that. We play a game called Fantasy Filmball, which measures general awards success through the awards season by scoring up a tally of all the awards given out, all the way from the Sundance Awards to the very end of the year Oscars. Now, every single awards show has a different tier of how many points it gives. For example, the Golden Globes give more points than the Satellite Awards, and the Critics' Choice Awards give much more than a random critics circle. So, through the awards season, every award that a movie gets gives it some points. And at the end of the year, we see the highest achieving films, and we kind of get this general metric tally. We've been working on this for a few years now. I think we've not perfected, but we've got it to a really good point where I think you can tell the general award success of a movie by looking at its final Filmball score. So in the description, I'm actually going to link a list that I have on LETTERBOXD, which is my tally of, I've gone all the way back to 2010 and tallied up awards points through the Filmball formula that we have. And today we're going to be drafting the top 10 of all time awards performing movies. And this is, of course, awards performing when looking at it through a lens of Fantasy Filmball, what scored the most. And the results are actually pretty surprising and also not surprising. So the top 10 of all time ranges from 2010 until 2023. And the shocking thing about this is that some of these are not Best Picture winners. I'd say 8 out of 10 of these are Best Picture winners. But there's 2 movies in here, including the second highest movie of all time that did not win Best Picture.
So for everyone out there, because obviously I know what our top 10 highest scoring films of all time are, but everyone else out there, they probably don't. So Matt, lead us off our list from number 1 down to number 10.
So this is fascinating, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of how each of these films got to this point. Looking at our final tally, Everything Ever All at Once actually just became the highest scoring film in our game of all time. This shouldn't be too surprising, as we've seen the reports that this became the most awarded film of all time, surpassing Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. It's crazy that this movie really did it, but it scored in our game 2,768 points, and it got that because it did extremely well with guilds. It swept at the Oscars, and it was a movie that did well across the board. It had critics' love, it had guilds' love, and of course it had mainstream awards success. Number 2, here's the shocking one, not a Best Picture winner, La La Land, which had 2,718 points, just 50 points behind Everything Ever All at Once, and it didn't even win Best Picture. How did La La Land get so close to Everything Everywhere without winning Best Picture? Well, answer is, it swept at basically every other award show. At the Golden Globes, at the BAFTAs, at the Critics' Choice Awards, this movie did exceptionally well everywhere until Best Picture. In fact, looking at that season, it kind of looked like the runaway winner for Best Picture until Moonlight came in at the last second and went, it's mine. Number 3, another shocker here. This is a Best Picture winner, but it's not going to be what you expect. The Artist from 2011 at 2,585 points. This movie fucking swept its season. It was an undeniable winner. Everyone knew The Artist is going to win. It got everything it needed. It had 5 Oscars, and it won Golden Globes. It won BAFTAs. It won Critics' Choice. It just took everything that it needed. It got guild love, and that's why it ended up here at number 3. Number 4, The King's Speech, which received 2,431 points. I know a lot of people say The Social Network was like right behind it. but it sure doesn't look like it when you see that point total right there. And again, that's because it did super well at the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, Critics' Choice, which it didn't win Best Picture there, did super, super well at the Oscars. And that's why The King's Speech is super high up. Number 5, we've got Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, which ended up tallying up 2,387 points right here. And again, this is because it did well, not at the Golden Globes, but it did very, very well at the Oscars and at Guilds. This is industry love pushing it all the way right here. Number 6, 12 Years a Slave, 2,301 points. And again, it's another one, Guilds, Golden Globes, BAFTA, Critics' Choice. It did well across the board, and then it did well at the Oscars. Maybe not as well as it could have done at the Oscars, and that would have pushed it a little bit higher. Number 7, another undeniable sweeper, Nomadland, which ended up with 2,294 points. If you were playing this game in the 2020 season, Nomadland was just a steamroller. This one went through the entire award season crushing everything. It felt like nothing else ever had a chance. And it had a little bit of backlash and not a lot of tech areas to award it in, which is why it only ended up with 2,294 points. Otherwise, it probably would have been one of the top scoring in the game if you could have awarded it in more tech categories. Number 8, The Shape of Water, 2,269 points. It's another one, Best Picture winner. Best Picture is the biggest award you can get. It pushes you very high. This one may not have won all the awards it could have through the season, but where it performed really, really well, and that's why it's so high up here. Number 9, another non-Best Picture winner, The Power of the Dog, at 2,210 points. And it's funny to look, because the Best Picture winner is more than 1,000 points behind Power of the Dog, because Power of the Dog did so well all the way up until the Oscars when it fell flat on its face at the last moment. But overall, this movie was a powerhouse, a juggernaut in the game of Fantasy Filmball. It crushed the awards season until suddenly it didn't. And finally, at number 10, Moonlight at 1,934 points. This won Best Picture, and yet it still ended up about 800 points behind La La Land, because La La Land just performed that well below the line and with Guilds.
As we normally do in all these drafts, whoever has the first overall pick gets number 1, then the other person gets 2, 3. It's a snake draft. We go back and forth until we each have 5 films on each of our rosters. After that, we will post the results in the YouTube community tab. Go out there, cast your vote for which team you think is better, because the person who wins that gets the first overall pick for next week's draft. However, as I mentioned, I lost last week, and again, continuing my streak of L's, so Matt will have the first overall pick for this Fantasy Filmball draft.
I'm not going to pick what people I think are going to expect me to pick, because if y'all thought I was a stan of Everything Ever All at Once, you didn't see me in 2016 when I was fucking going for La La Land. La La Land is in my top 10 films of all time. It is one that I think I saw 4 times in theaters. It's the reason that my fiance and I are together. I love La La Land. This is my comfort movie. This is the movie I always go back to, and that is why I have to pick La La Land number 1. It's crazy to think also that La La Land in our Filmball game, it had 2,718 points without winning Best Picture. If it had won Best Picture and maybe a couple of other awards along the way, it would have been the only film to cross 3,000 points in this game in our Filmball metric of award season performance. I wonder if any film will ever cross 3,000 points.
Honestly, probably not if Everything Everywhere couldn't do it this year with sweeping it as much as it did. However, I mean, La La Land is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 10, but it just so happens that that year, my number 1 favorite movie of all time beat it in Best Picture, because I will be going Moonlight here in the first
That's your
round.
favorite of all time?
It is.
That's
if I had
really
to pick
cool.
one, it would be Moonlight.
That's very cool.
I'm really happy it made our list of 10 here, because it was that last movie in the slate of 10, but it continues this whole story of Moonlight just being that underdog, that little movie that could. It goes all the way to win Best Picture, and I mean, you didn't pick it, so I gotta pick it. Give me both A24 movies to ever win Best Picture. I will be going with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
You got a killer starting of your team, man. I just gotta say also, La La Land may have been the movie I stand that year. Moonlight would be in like my top 30. I just happen to prefer La La Land, but you know, it's like picking between ice cream and a birthday cake. Both are great. Good
Yeah, like
options
any
all
other
around.
year for like best picture lineups, these would easily be my number one, no questions about it. But it just so happens that my probably two favorite best picture nominees of the like modern era came out the same year.
Yeah, it's crazy that it happens that way sometimes. And honestly, I'm kind of sad that I ended up with first pick here because you really stacked it there. I think that there's a clear top 3 in this top 10 right here. And I think we've already picked all 3 of them. So the question is, what goes next? And the answer is Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Yeah.
It's a great film. I mean, it's revolutionary. It's groundbreaking in how it presents itself. Plus, it's just funny as hell. It's well acted. It delivers everything that you want. It's intensely rewatchable. You can go back and watch it over and over again. It's only aged better and better. With what it has to say about celebrity and superhero movies. And it's a fantastic movie, and it's a great choice for Best Picture. Even though I would have gone with Grand Budapest Hotel that year, Birdman is fantastic, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Many of these movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. Actually, all but one of these are in my list of my favorite movies of all time. So,
Interesting.
I'm happy
Let me
with
know
a
which
lot
one
of
it is
these.
at the end of the draft.
I'll let you know at the very end. Because I think I might leave it to you very last. We'll see. So, for my next pick, I think I'm going to have to take 12 Years a Slave. 12 Years a Slave is a fantastic film. Steve McQueen completely outdid himself with this. It is, I think, one of the most harrowing pieces of filmmaking, a movie that shows history in a way that doesn't let you look away. The way Steve McQueen makes us feel time in this movie is exceptional. It is an incredible piece of filmmaking, and it's so deserving of Best Picture, so incredibly deserving. And yeah, it might be the biggest downer on this list by a long shot, but at the same time, it is a incredibly worthwhile and artfully profound film.
I mean, you mentioned before there being a strong top 3. I think there's a strong top 5 because Birdman and 12 Years a Slave, personally for me, would be my number 3 and 4 in my draft boards. But I know other people prefer Everything Everywhere Above them. But all 5 of those movies I love so much. Birdman, very great movie. 12 Years a Slave, very impactful movie. So I have 2 A24 movies that have won Best Picture. One is probably the smallest movie to ever win. One may be the most wild movie to ever win. So give me the craziest movie to ever win, and give me The Shape of Water from Guillermo del Toro.
I knew you were going to do that. It just makes sense.
This is one where maybe I'm not as high on it as a lot of other people are, but I very much respect this movie. I admire it, and I'm very happy that it did win just because of what it does mean for like what a Best Picture winner can be. However, this is the point in the draft where we get to movies I don't really like, and I know that may be a hot take out there. One of these movies I haven't seen, and the other 3 I'm not really big on, so I don't really know where to go here. So I'm going to go to the one that I think most people probably like the most, and that is Power of the Dog.
Nice. I know you're not a huge fan of that one. So, I mean, do you have any reasoning for this one, or is it just that most people like this more than the others?
I think from what's left, it's one where most people like it the most. To me, this would probably be my bottom of the ones that are left that I have seen. But like I said, the last 4 aren't ones I'm really big fans of the ones that I have seen. But I appreciate Power of the Dog. I can't say I really enjoyed it or liked it, but I appreciate what it's doing.
Okay, so there's 3 left, and I think I have to stay true to myself. So at number 4, I'm going to pick The Artist. And The Artist is a film that everyone is wrong about. You're all wrong about The Artist. People say that this is a boring winner. People say that this is just forgettable, and why the hell did this win? I'll tell you why it wins. Because it was a movie, not just of the moment, it was the epitome of, oh, they don't make movies like this anymore. Yeah, they actually don't. And when people say, oh, it's a forgettable movie, it had no impact, yeah, of course it didn't, because it was emulating a style that no one does anymore. It does the style of the silent movie so well that not only could you be convinced that this was from the 1920s, but if you put it alongside some of the best movies of the 1920s, it would stack up perfectly alongside some of those old silent movies. You put this alongside maybe not a Chaplin, but you put this alongside like a Buster Keaton movie or a Harold Lloyd movie, would stack up as one of the best silent movies of all time. It is fantastic. It uses sound in a really interesting way. The score is great. Jean Dujardin is fantastic.
This is the one that I have not seen yet.
That was the one that when you said you hadn't seen one, I was like, oh, it's The Artist. He hasn't seen The Artist. That makes sense because it's one that I think a lot of people will just look over because it's like, oh, that one Best Picture? That's weird. But I'll finish off my team. I just went on a long rant about The Artist, which you're all wrong about, and I'm going to keep saying that. And I'm going to finish off my team with Nomadland. My last 10 out of 10 that I've got here. I know you don't like Nomadland. I love it. I think Frances McDormand is fantastic. I think that the way that they use non-actors is amazing. This movie has made me cry on multiple occasions. I think it was the perfect movie for 2020 when it released. I don't think that this would have won Best Picture in any other year. I think people needed a movie like this about what it feels like to be left with nothing, to wander aimlessly through life, wondering where you're meant to be, and wondering, is the wandering the part of it all? Is the aimlessness, is that what this is? Is that what life is supposed to be? It's a beautiful film, and I love it, and I think it's very worthy of Best Picture. Again, wouldn't have been my pick, but it's one that I'm very happy won anyways. And that leaves you with one movie, which is the one movie here that I would give less than a 10 out of 10.
I'm happy I got this one because, while I like The King's Speech, Tom Hooper went on to direct a great movie that no one else also thinks is a great movie, being Cats. So, fitting to end my team off with, I have 4 other very visionary and inventive type stories with the guy who went on to make the most inventive and most crazy and most original musical ever.
So you heard it here first, everyone. Dylan picked The King's Speech, but he's really picking Cats.
Exactly. Rightful 2020 Best Picture winner, Cats.
Over Parasite?
Over Parasite.
Over Parasite. You'd pick it over Parasite. Good. I caught you on video saying it. So let's wrap it up. Let's talk about our teams. So for me, my team here is La La Land, Birdman or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, 12 Years a Slave, The Artist, and Nomadland.
On the flip side, I have Moonlight, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Shape of Water, Power of the Dog, and The King's Speech.
Who do you think's going to win this week? Because I'm just going to say off the bat, I have a feeling you might be claiming a W this week.
I think I may win for recency bias because I have Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's the most recent of these winners, and it's a very beloved winner. But, I personally think you have the stronger team because, as I mentioned, I'd rather take 4 of the top, or 3 of the top 5 and 2 of the top 3 because I think it's deeper. But I know other people aren't as high on Birdman or 12 Years a Slave, so that's a more personal one for me. But I think it's a very even type competition week, just like our one from last week.
I think you just got a killer top 2, and I think it's going to be hard to beat that 1-2 punch of Moonlight and Everything Ever All at Once. And especially because I think a lot of people have soured a bit on La La Land and Birdman through the years, and 12 Years a Slave, and Nomadland, and definitely The Artist. I think all of mine have become very polarizing with age, whereas I think that your team is mostly aged very gracefully.
I had The King's Speech, and that's everyone's favorite Best Picture winner.
Also, can you believe that movie made like $150 million at the box office?
It's Tom Hooper. Who doesn't love Tom Hooper?
Who's currently in director's jail, soon to get out, I hope. I want to see more Tom Hooper. Ooh. But let us know, do you want more Tom Hooper? Who has the better team? Make sure you go and vote. Next week's draft will be decided by who gets your votes. So head over to our YouTube community tab and voice your opinion. Leave a comment behind and vote on who you think has the best team. Is it going to be Team Moonlight, Everything Ever All at Once? Or is it going to be Team La La Land, Birdman? You let us know. And until next time, my name is Matt.
And my name is Dyl, and this is Fantasy Filmball.